What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. And today is Sunday, which means it's the weekly Cincinnati Bengals 7-round mock draft. And today's video, I have a special guest, Blake Jewell. How you doing today, Blake?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't know. Blake and I used to do a Cincinnati Bengals, podcast. We did that for a while. Did some really cool things. Interviewed some draft prospects. Even got to interview Bengals legend Kenny Anderson. So lots of cool things there. Glad to have him finally on the show and stuff. So we're going to do two Cincinnati Bengals 7-round mock drafts. And, we are live on YouTube, like every single video I do. And before we do the mock drafts, there's been lots of reports coming out about the Bengals supposedly, their jerseys have been leaked. And as you see on the screen here, the Joe Burrow jersey, and there's also a black one as well. So, Blake, what are your thoughts on the Bengals supposedly leaked jerseys?
Well, I'm not too sure if they're real yet. I haven't really looked into it much. I literally just saw them a little bit ago, but I think from what I've seen, they look like really nice. They're gonna look bad when they're like on a hanger. They're like the sales version of the jersey. They're a little bigger. I think when they get like the player version of the jersey and they're on the players, they're gonna look a lot better. I think that people are just kind of looking at them and like giving their reaction, which is fine. But I think when they actually, get the right sizes on the players and everything, they're going to look really nice. I like them a lot.
Yeah, that was kind of my reaction too. Honestly, I just saw them about half an hour or so ago. I was outside, playing some basketball. My friend sent it to me. I was really surprised that it was leaked because, something like this, they've been hyping it up for months. You did not think it was going to be leaked at all. And to me, I agree with what you said. At first, I was really bummed out about it. There's the orange and here's the black here. And I am still – I did think it would be better than this, but at the same time, I agree with what you said because once you put them on the players, I think it'll be a little bit different because the stripes, they're going to be on their, shoulder pads, and I think it's going to make, so much different when the shoulder pads, on the player. But, like, when a fan wears this jersey and if a player wears this jersey, I think it's completely different because if you have, like a fan wear jersey like this, to me, like this is the type of jersey it seems like my mom can make with a Cricut in like 10 minutes. But at the same time, if you put it on the player with the shoulder pads and the stripes on it, I think it could be pretty cool. And I kind of have a mixed reaction. Like I don't think it's great. I don't think it's absolutely horrible. But at the same time, I still kind of think they could have done a little bit better by this.
Yeah, I think they probably could have done better if those were them. I do like the style though. I think that I kind of like how they got the stripes now. They look a little plain, but I mean, I think when you have a helmet like the Bengals do, I think it's okay to have jerseys just a little more plain, just to kind of go with the helmets. But I think I like that they don't have the panel on the side. I never really was a fan of that. I don't really know what they could do to make it more different. I guess I like the stripes. I like the numbers. The numbers are fine with me. I guess maybe you could have that leaping tiger that everybody wants more of, just somewhere in there to give it a little more something. But I think that they got the right idea, and if those are the final ones, I think that like I said, when they get on the players, they'll look a little better, and maybe in different lighting, the colors will look a little bit different too. So I think they got the right idea. If those are them, I just think they look pretty bad right now. I will say that. But I think when it's all said and done, they look a lot better.
Yeah, it's also one of those things like people love to overreact when they first see something. Like if you see a game, you see a player, they have a really good game or something like that. They overreact about it, and especially in sports, there's always overreactions in sports. It seems like every single day, and I think this is kind of one of them too. Also, to me, I am super intrigued. I don't know if we're going to change like the color rush. I don't know if that's been released or not. Like if we're planning on it, the color rush jerseys of all our jerseys we have, that's personally my favorite. I don't know if we'll change that. If we do, I hope we don't like screw it up because I mean that's hands down my favorite. I really hope like if we do a color rush, it's going to look a lot better than this because the color rush, they're supposed to, be really like cool looking jersey. If it's like this, then I would probably get, a lot more upset about the jerseys and the elite jerseys.
Yeah, I think I saw something that was like the color rush jerseys are they're I don't know if they're done, but they won't be the same. So maybe a different like style with these new jerseys that are all white. I'm not really sure how that would look. Probably black number, black stripes. So I think they could look cool. They'd have to do some changes. But I think, like you said about people's reactions, like overreactions. When the Rams came out their new jerseys last year, I hated them. I thought they were some of the ugliest in the league. And now, maybe an unpopular opinion, but they're probably in my top 5 favorite jerseys in the whole NFL. Like I love the Rams jerseys now, but like first glance, first look, I didn't really like them, and that was when they weren't leaked. Like they came out looking on the players, everything. I think so when they come out with these, on the players, I think people have maybe a little bit different perspective, and I think. Even if people don't like them at first, they'll eventually warm up to them because, like, that's happened. That's happened to me with like a lot of different team jerseys. The Rams are like a really good example because now I love their jerseys, and it's about a year later.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really interesting. It's not even a guarantee that these are like the
Yeah.
official jerseys, but I would say they probably are. Something else, and it makes really, really interesting is that you see Burrow, you see Sam Hubbard. Those players are both under contract. To me,
Mm-hmm.
why is there an AJ Green jersey? Like, I'm not saying we're going to re-sign him just because we see a supposed elite jersey. But to me, that's just kind of like something interesting, that's going to get lots of, people talking about, if Green will sign or not. But this is going to be really, really interesting, even if these are the actual jerseys or not.
Yeah, the only thing I could really think of was so when they're making like these mock-ups for these jerseys, because these aren't probably the final product, they're probably just the uh, an example or something like that. And I think that maybe if they have AJ Green, they probably just took like some of the probably I don't know 5 or 10 top selling Bengals players jerseys and just kind of made those. So that's kind of why I think AJ would be in there because he's always been probably at the top for sales among Bengals jerseys. But it also could be the other reason. I don't know, and I don't have any information about that. I don't know if it were my guess, it would be the AJ's gone. But that could be a hint that maybe they plan on keeping him. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, I'm still definitely thinking that he's probably going to be gone, but it could be something could change, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, with Green, with these jerseys, if Green will resign, if these even are the actual jerseys or not. Just also, goes to, the offseason, what they're going to do in free agency, in the draft. And, the video here, we'll be doing 2 7-round mock drafts. First up, we'll do Pro Football Network. And just a second here. This crap. Still new to this stuff, like sharing screen type of deal.
Yeah,
Not real good at it. Gonna be
I'm
honest.
not either.
All right, so Pro Football Network, we'll do a 7-round mock draft here. Can you see the screen all right?
Yep, I can see it.
All right. So we'll do Bengals, 7th round. So who is some, obviously, Sewell and Chase, but who is some players in the first round that you would maybe like for us to get, if a crazy scenario happens, if Sewell and Chase are both gone by 5?
Definitely Kyle Pitts. I am really high on Kyle Pitts. I think that after after Sewell, I think Pitts is probably my second favorite actually. Maybe even over Chase. And then if they don't go Pitts, I like Jalen Waddle a lot. I think he has the speed, can really help out the Bengals, add more speed to their wide receiver group. And then I mean honestly, I really like Rashawn Slater and Christian Darrisaw even at 5. I think they're both really good tackles. And if you just really need to get a tackle at that spot, I don't think it would be a reach to take either of them at 5.
So we pick 5th, obviously. And, Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Justin Fields. all, 3 quarterbacks in the first 4. The Lions, swapped with the Falcons. Chase and Sewell, Kyle Pitts, Devontae Smith are all available. I want to figure we would, but are you going to trade back or are you going to select somebody here?
What was the offer there? 6 and
6 and 3rd-round pick for the Eagles, so we just go back 1 spot. Next is the Cardinals. We swap 1st-round picks. They pick 16, their 3rd-round pick this year, and their 1st-round pick next year. And the Chargers, they swap 5 to 13. They give us their first and 2nd for next year.
Yeah, the Eagles pick. I mean, you go back 1 spot, but you're still either going to get Chase, Sewell, or Pitts. So I think that if they're really locked on Sewell, they're going to take Sewell right there if that's the situation. But if they're if they don't know which one of the 3, you can trade back and still get one of those. So I think they're pretty locked in on Sewell, and I think at 5, if Sewell's there, they're going to take him.
Who do you like more? Okay, so we'll both agree Sewell at 5 here.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So who do you like more, Chase or Pitts?
I'm higher on Pitts for the Bengals. I think that really, you're looking for more weapons for Burrow, and it doesn't have to be a receiver. I think that they have a need for a vertical threat tight end, somebody can, do better with the ball. Sample's a good blocker, but you need somebody, more athletic, can stretch the field a little bit more. I think Pitts will be that guy. I think Pitts is going to be a superstar in the NFL. So I think he would be a great pick. And he can play receiver too. He's capable of that. So I think that Pitts would be the better pick in my opinion. I do like Jamar Chase. I'm not really like low on him or by any means. I just have other people ahead of him.
Yeah, I agree. To me, Pitts is probably he's in my top 3 favorite prospects, in the draft. I like him more than Chase. Like you said, he can line him up at wide receiver. And I've heard people say, Evan Ingram was drafted high. TJ Hawkinson was drafted high. Those players haven't really panned out. Who's to say, Kyle Pitts, that won't happen to him as well. To me, Kyle Pitts is completely different. Kyle Pitts is not your typical tight end prospect. He's one of the best tight end prospects ever. And how people say, Penei Sewell is a generational offensive tackle draft prospect. The same thing could and should be said for Kyle Pitts being a generational, tight end prospect. He's not going to be, a guy who gets you a couple catches a game. He's going to be making an impact wherever he goes. To me, he reminds me so much of Travis Kelce and George Kittle, even a little bit of Darren Waller. And, I like Chase a lot. I would not be upset if we drafted Chase, but to me, I just really prefer Pitts. So in the 2nd round here, it's our pick. The Seahawks offer us, they swap picks. We go back 18. They give us a 2nd next year. And Texans offer us their, I think, 3rd-round pick. We go back 29 spots, their 3rd to 4th, and their 2nd next year. So are you planning on trading or we just want to pick here?
Wait, what was the 2nd one? The 2nd offer?
3rd, 4th, and a 2nd next year.
I think you stick here. I think that would probably be the smart move if those are the offers.
So to me, this is where it gets really interesting because if we take Penei Sewell in the 1st round like we just did, if Terrence Marshall's available, you can maybe, take him. But if you take Chase or Pitts in the 1st round, whether you trade back or not, or just stay at 5, you don't know if you're going to draft, offensive tackle, maybe even an edge rusher. So who are some players in the 2nd round you may be looking at?
I'm really big on the edge rusher class in the 2nd round. I think that there's a lot of good ones in this class. I think Patrick Jones is my favorite 2nd round target, period, for the Bengals. I think he's, the Bengals desperately need a pass rush. I think he helps that a lot. And I think he's a really good prospect. And then you got, I don't know if I can't really tell if they're there, but Carlos Basham, Jalen Phillips, some other good ones in the 2nd round. I think the Bengals should ultimately double down on prospects or on edge rushers in this draft because this is a really good edge rusher class. And I think that, you can take one in the second round, get a good one who can start, help the pass rush. Maybe in the fifth round, get somebody like, I don't know if he'll be there, but like Shaka Toney or Chris Rumph, who are good pass rushers, and I think that they'll eventually be good starters in the league. So you can get one of them in the fifth round. So I think right now my eyes are on edge rushers in the second round. If Sewell's not the pick, I like Liam Eichenberg. If they don't take a quarterback, or if they don't take a tackle in the first round, I like Eichenberg in the second. But so for the second round, I just really my eyes were on edge rushers right now.
Yeah, you mentioned Patrick Jones. I've not really done position rankings of players. I was planning on doing a quarterback one soon, and I'm going to make a lot of people upset for who I have in my top two. But Patrick Jones, he's like I said, I've not done a prospect ranking, but if I did, he would be up there in the top. He's, as of right now, my favorite edge rusher, in the class. In a bad game, he'll still get you a sack. It seems like he'll, be able to, disrupt the quarterback at quarterback pressures. And I know some people may say, in the second round, that might be a little bit of a reach. I don't really think that's the case at all. And I agree with what you said there. This edge rusher class is absolutely so loaded. You can make a case this edge class is nearly as talented as the wide receiver class from last season. I mean, you have Peyton Turner, Shaka Toney, so many guys, even later round guys, like you said, Chris Rumph, Ellerson Smith from Northern Iowa, Teron Jackson from Coastal Carolina. There's lots and lots of edge players here. And I would not be upset if we draft 2 edge rushers in the draft. I know, it looks like we may re-sign Carl Lawson, but even if we sign Carl Lawson, I mean, we don't really have anybody besides him because a year from now, Sam Hubbard's a free agent. So to me, I would really like if we would, decide to draft 2 edge rushers in the class.
Yeah, I don't think the class or people kind of make it out to be that the Bengals, they have like they're full in the depth chart with the edge rushers. I mean, Lawson, if you keep him, there's your best edge rusher. Hubbard's more of a run stopper. He's not very much of a pass rusher, and you could even pump him into like the 5 tech or something to get in there and maybe stop the run. But there's a lot of different schemes, a lot of different packages that are going to be used, and if you have Lawson, Jones, and like Toney, they're and Hubbard, they're all going to get on the field with different subs and packages and stuff. Moving Hubbard around a little bit. So they're all going to get on the field. I think that if you want, better pass rush, 2 edges, it gives you more, versatility. You can bring in, whoever you want on like a third down. You need a pass rush, you bring in somebody. So I think that you're more flexible if you take more edge rushers and just kind of beef up your pass rush.
So, kind of mentioning edge rushers, there's, Jalen Phillips, Ronnie Perkins, Basham. Who are you maybe looking here for round 2?
Out of those 3, I'd like Carlos Basham. I think he's up. I don't know if he has a first round grade for me. He might be like the 33rd or 34th ranked player, but he's definitely up there. I like him a lot. I think he'd be a really good pick in the second round.
Yeah, so we'll take Basham in the second. I also like him a lot. Basham, Phillips, and Patrick Jones to me would probably be the favorites towards round 3. I know Jason Away, from Penn State. I know he didn't have a sack, but he has lots of potential. But I still prefer Patrick Jones. I also like Basham a lot, so we'll take Basham in the second round here. So who are some players in the third round you're maybe looking at?
I really like De'Ami Brown from North Carolina. I think that if you want the Bengals to take a receiver, I think that De'Ami Brown is probably the best fit for the Bengals in the entire draft. He's got the speed. He's a deep threat. I think that if you can get him in the third round, it would be a phenomenal pick, depending on what happens earlier in the draft. I think that I think he'd really help out the Bengals offense, just adding some more speed in there, and he's less risky taking him in the third round than it is Waddle or Chase. Even though I think they'll be good players. I think I'd rather have Sewell in the first round, really good, and get a quality receiver in the third round.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you don't want to take a huge risk of taking a wide receiver in the first round when there may be better, talented players like Pitts or Sewell available because, I know last year's wide receiver class was so talented, but this year's is just really talented as well. Honestly, I've not looked much at Brown. I've kind of looked at under the radar wide receivers like Trey Walker, later round guys. But to me, I mean, I know this is way too early. My favorite prospect, as a wide receiver, is easily Jalen Darden from North Texas. To me, I think he's going to be like the next Tyreek Hill. 19 receiving touchdowns in 9 games. After the ball, after he catches the ball, he's so explosive. Jukes and everything. You have no idea what he's going to do. But so we really, to me, like second or third round is so interesting because it all determines in the first round. If we take tackle in the first, we're not going to take a tackle in the second or third. More likely, it would take a wide receiver. In the first, we're not going to take a wide receiver second or third. It seems like pretty much for the most part, what you do in round one has a huge impact on what you're going to do for the entire draft. It seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think that if you take a receiver in the first round, like if they like De'Ami Brown, if you take one in the first round, it kind of wipes him off your board. Can't take him. If you take a tackle in the first round, some of these players like Jenkins or Eichenberg are off the table. Which, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like I think I'd rather take Sewell and have my receiver, my edge rusher options, available than kind of take Chase or Waddle and then you're done. You can't really take Darden. You can't really take De'Ami Brown. So I think you're better off going after like a tackle in the first round and then keeping your options open because this is a good wide receiver class too.
So we have a trade offer here in the third round. The Texans offer us their, I think their fourth round pick, their third next year, and their fourth. We give up our third and our sixth. I wouldn't figure we would do that one. To me, that's a pretty horrible offer. And then the other offer, we swept with the Bills. They had a 93rd pick, which is one of the last picks of the third round, and their third round pick next year. And we give them our last pick of the draft, our second, 7th round pick. So would you decline both of those?
Yeah, I think I would. I think the Bills offer is better, but I think I'd stay where they were.
So we go to wide receivers here. Brown's available. He's 93. We pick, 69. To me, something interesting. We're going to do a PFF mock draft after this. Dwayne Eskridge is 81 on here. PFF, he's like 189. It's so crazy how different their, mock draft rankings are. Like Jalen Darden on PFF, like 87 on here. He's like 170. Trask on one of them is like one. He was super low. The other one he's pretty high. It's really crazy. It's really interesting when you look at these websites, how much their opinions and stuff, and how different they grade some of these players. So are you wanting to take Brown here in round 3?
Yeah, I would. I know it wouldn't be really good value according to this, but in like real life, I think De'Ami Brown, I'm kind of concerned if he'll even make it to the Bengals pick in the third round. I think there's a chance he can go in the late second. So I think that would be a good pick for him there. I think that the odds of him going, before pick 69 are a lot higher than him going, pick 90, whatever they had him at.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is probably best case scenario so far. To me, in round 4, I'm kind of looking at maybe a corner or defensive tackle. Tallman, or how you say it, from Pittsburgh. Darius Steele is not a little bit too high. Marvin Wilson from Florida State. Go to corners. I don't know if they'll be available. But Ambry Thomas from Michigan, Trill Williams, I like him a lot. He's one of the better tacklers as a corner. And it seems like in today's NFL, you don't really see corners who are really good tacklers. Also, Robert Rochelle from Central Arkansas, I like him a lot. To me, he's really underrated. So, who's some people you're looking out here in round 4?
Yeah, so assuming that, I think in this case, assuming that William Jackson's back, you'll have William Jackson, Trey Waynes, Darius Phillips, and if they lose Mackenzie Alexander or not, I think they're going to bring in another slot, most likely, unless they want to play Darius Phillips there. So I don't think there's like a huge immediate need for corner. I think that, I mean, I know this is might be kind of a crazy thing to do, but I think the best way to go would be kind of maybe even neglect the corner position a little this year. And as it looks right now, next year's corner draft looks really good. And I think, if you do well in the draft this year, you fix the offensive line, get a little bit of a pass rush, you can get one of these really good corners in the first round next year. And the way, the trend's been, if you look at probably the top 5, 6, 7 corners in the NFL, they're all taken before pick like 20. So it's like a trend that if you want a really good corner, you got to take them in the first round. And I think next year's a really good year to do that. So I think this year, Jalen Twyman, if he's there in this round, I think getting a good 3 technique like him that can help the pass rush, plus these edge rushers you're bringing in. I think that if, everybody that watched the Super Bowl, you can kind of tell that, aside from quarterback play, the Bengals have Burrow. So aside from quarterback play, the 2 biggest things are offensive line and pass rush. And the Bengals are lacking in both. So I think that you want to fix both of those things. And I think at this point, assuming they get an offensive lineman for agency and they have Penei Sewell, I would go with, Jalen Twyman here just to kind of help the pass rush, get a 3 technique that can play besides DJ Reader. And I think he complements Lawson well. And, brought in Carlos Basham and Sam Hubbard. So I think that, picking Twyman here would really help the Bengals pass rush.
Yeah, I know it's 143, but it's one of those things like some of these rankings just don't make any sense. I would absolutely love him here. So we'll take him. I mean, you really look at defensive tackles. We have DJ Reader, but he's also coming off a season-ending injury and earlier in the season. And, Atkins, he's going to be cut or traded. And, we really don't have anybody. I mean, we have Rennell Rand, but he's been a big question mark the past couple of seasons. He's had injuries the past couple of years. I mean, that's really it. And we need, if you get him and who do we get in this? Who do we get in the second, the edge rusher?
Basham.
Yeah, Basham. I mean, who's to say we don't get another edge rusher? I would personally like another edge rusher. In a couple of years, that's a potential, top 10 defensive line, which is something, to me, going into the season, you think we were going to have a really nice defensive line. We had 17 sacks in 16 games. And I know, Atkins didn't play much, and he was hurt when he played. Dunlap was traded. DJ Reader was hurt. But, it's just our defensive line was not nearly as good as it should have been. And but if, this kind of pans out the way it actually does, our defensive line could be really, really good in just a year or two.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, with what we've taken so far, you'll have Lawson and Basham to remain, edge rushers for the stopping the pass. And then you still got Hubbard there. You could even take another edge rusher. And then on the inside, you got Reader at the 1 tech. Jalen Twyman would be the 3 technique, which that's probably the biggest need with, you don't know what's going to happen with Geno Atkins. And then, Rennell Rand could play a little bit at the 3 tag, maybe bring back Mike Daniels or Christian Covington. I think Mike Daniels I think they should bring him back. And then, Josh Tupou, he can play some 5 tech, so can Sam Hubbard. So I think with what we've done so far here, I think you have a lot of options. And I think even, Khalil Kareem played, he wasn't great last year, but he had some solid plays. So I think that, with everybody they got and like all the rotations and schemes, I think this would be a much better Bengals defensive line.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. And so we have a trade offer here in the 5th round. To me, this is a 7th round. Like, we're getting a 7th round pick out of this. I believe it's 7th round. Or it's like towards the end of the 6th, including compensatory picks. Would you do this trade?
No, I don't think so, because the Bengals already have 2 7th-round picks. So I think that at this point in the draft, I think you're better off kind of sticking where you are and keeping the higher pick, trying to get, a steal in one of these rounds.
So, go to all here, some players who really shouldn't be here. Caden Stearns, a safety from Texas. Jamie Newman, to me, obviously a quarterback, probably not in the 5th. He's really intriguing prospect. Reminds me a lot of Cam Newton. Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle from Florida State, and Chuck Otonia both available. I know we've already drafted both of those positions. I would not be against if we, drafted one of those two guys there. Neither one of those guys should probably both of those guys should be gone, at this pick. Any corners, so who are some players that you maybe like to see here in round 5?
Yeah, I think if Shakatoni's there, I think he would be tremendous value at this pick. It might not. I think he probably goes in the 3rd or 4th round. So, but I think realistically, I think this is where Chris Rumph could be taken in the 5th round. And then I'm not sure who's there. Is LeCount from Georgia there right now?
I don't see him.
I think you need more depth at safety, and I think he'd be a pretty good pick.
Oh yeah, he's right here.
He's there.
My bad.
Yeah, I think LeCount or Tony or Rumph or it depends who's there on corners. Is Mukwamu there? Israel Mukwamu from.
Let me see. No.
Okay. So, yeah, some of those guys I said, and I think if Mackenzie Alexander's gone, you can maybe look to try to get a slot corner here like Diamondor Lenore. But I think you're better off kind of going after either Tony, Rumph, or LeCount.
Tony, to me, I like him a lot. I also like Rumph, and it's weird. He's way down the boards. I think he's in the 200 range.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, I know what's his face, Bengals perspective. I think he freaking loves him a ton. But
yeah,
he's
really good.
Like he's one of it's like it goes back to the edge thing. Like this edge class is just so underrated. In a normal year, somebody who should be a 4th round pick could be a round pick. Any other year, players who were drafted in the 5th or 6th round this year, it's a different draft. They could be drafted potentially in the 2nd or 3rd, and it's going to be really interesting. Reminds me a lot of last year's wide receiver group because there's so many wide receivers, there's so many good ones. Like teams have a completely position rank big board at edge than lots of other teams. Let's say the Bengals, they have Azeez Ojulari number 1. To the Titans, they could have him number 4 because there's so many talented edge rushers, and there's just so many ones to choose from. Like the rankings are just really intriguing and interesting when you look at how many good edge rushers there really are.
Yeah, and I have just based on my grades, I have early 3rd round grades on both Shakatoni and Chris Rumph, and I think that their teams are going to be a lot higher on them than what we see in these simulators. And I get nothing against the simulators because I bet it's tough to try to place everybody, but I think they're spot on with like some of the people. But I think with these edge rushers, I don't know if they'll get taken, early on. But I think that Rumph and Tony will definitely get more buzz from NFL teams, probably 3rd or 4th round. I don't really see them both being there in the 5th round. I think for sure that one of them will at least be taken by now.
So we'll take Tony in the 5th here. I know we've took 2 edge rushers, but I mean Tony in the 5th, you just can't really pass him up. And to me, it's kind of interesting, and it kind of goes back to a player last year. We were able to interview him, Davion Taylor. We were both really high on Davion Taylor. And, we kind of thought he'd go in the 5th round, 4th. He ended up going mid-3rd to the Eagles, kind of caught some people off guard. It kind of goes to the point, lots of, scouts or websites you go to can be completely different than when actually teams, view, some prospects.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that these simulators, they're a good like benchmark for maybe this player get picked in these. They're close by like round. Like so, if they have somebody in the 5th round, they'll probably get picked in the 4th, 5th, or 6th round. Which I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty close, like for the order you have. But when it comes to like a player going a lot higher, or a lot lower than they are in these simulators, it happens a lot. But I think this is kind of like a good list of where the round you want to take these guys, even though teams might have it a little differently, which I think teams will have it a lot differently, especially in the edge class.
So we go to the 6th round here. Some players, to me, it's kind of intriguing. I know we took Brown from North Carolina. I really like Trevon Grimes from Florida. I really think he's overlooked because of Kadarius Toney and Pitts, but he's made really some nice impact plays for Florida. Anthony Schwartz, he probably shouldn't be here, and Quentin Morris, the tight end from Bowling Green. So, who's some players you may be looking at here in the 6th round?
Yeah, I think Quentin Morris is underrated at tight end, and I think you're right about the guys you said too. I like those guys. Even the Schwartz probably shouldn't be there. I think he'd be a good pick, and I think double down on edge already, but I don't have a problem doubling down on receiver at this point in the draft. I think at 6th round, you're really looking for somebody that can eventually turn out to be a pretty good player. And I don't really think the position matters as much. Obviously you'd rather take a receiver than probably, I don't know, running. It's kind of tough. 6th round, you're just looking for, depth or maybe future talent. But I think that, in the 6th round here, Morris is a good one. And then you can kind of look at the corners. I think that there's some really underrated corners that'll be taken late. I don't know if Elijah Griffin's there or Amador Lenore's still there. Either one of those guys, too.
I think Trey Brown from Oklahoma. I believe I might be wrong on this. Honestly, I've not looked at corners much. I think he had like 5 or 6 interceptions or something like this the past season for Oklahoma. I'm like I said, I really don't like scouting corners much. I've not done it a whole lot. To me, I've watched lots of wide receivers, and to me, Grimes, Anthony Schwartz, or even Quentin Morris from Bowling Green. In the 6th round, if you're drafting in the 6th round, not guaranteed to make the team. Any of those 3 players, to me, more than likely are going to make the team because I think in the future they could have pretty big roles. And Quentin Morris, he intrigues me a lot because he had a really nice Senior Bowl practice. He also had a really really nice game. Even hurdling over a player. But I wouldn't mind corner. But so if it was between a corner, maybe Quentin Morris or one of those receivers, who would you take here?
I think I would take Quentin Morris. I like some more receivers that you can probably get in the 7th round too. But I think that, Quentin Morris just adds another to your tight end room, gives you some more versatility. I mean, you don't really know if he'll, turn out to be really good or anything. But I think he's definitely underrated and he can, maybe get some snaps his rookie year. And I think he can turn out to be a pretty solid player.
And this is a 6th round pick, and if it doesn't work out, it's not like we're using a high pick on him. Unlike the Bengals drafting Sample in the 2nd, if he does not work out, which to me I think is still quite a bit of a question mark. At least here we're not using a top pick like the Bengals did with Sample, and a little bit of a reach or kind of a questionable pick there.
Yeah, and I think Sample. So right now I like what the Bengals did with Sample. I like the way, I think they picked him a little too high, but he's a really good blocker as a tight end. And I think, maybe taking a blocking tight end that early is kind of a problem. But I think you're getting kind of what you asked for in terms of the Bengals front office. He's a really good blocker. And I think the issues, as in terms of a pass catching tight end, he's okay. I think that now you just need a more, athletic, more vertical pass catching tight end. But I think Sample you're going to keep really good blocker, and I think you just need someone more athletic to kind of complement him well.
So in the 7th here, it'll be really interesting with Sample. I mean, to me, I do think I think we should use him more as a fullback. We've not really had a fullback since Neville Hewitt. But I mean, if you're going to use a 2nd round pick on him, at least kind of make it worth a 2nd round pick by using him a lot in the offense. It's going to be really interesting with Sample though. So if we go to the 7th round here, we have pick 231 and pick 233. So Packers are right between us. In the 7th round, a couple of players to me that are intriguing are Jonathan Adams Jr. from Arkansas State, Trey Walker from San Jose State, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, Grant Stroud from the linebacker from Houston. So who are some players you may be looking at here in the 7th?
I love Trey Walker. I think he would be tremendous value for a 7th round pick. I think that if he were on the board here based on what I've done so far, or based on what the team has done so far, if they do this draft, I think that I would definitely take Trey Walker here.
So I'm going to take him at 231. I'm actually, a big fan of him. I'm trying to get him on my show.
Oh yeah.
Not guarantee it's going to happen, hopefully, but I mean, he's really underrated. I believe it was him. Played 25 games past 2 seasons, had 2,500 receiving yards. Really, really great player. And like if he would have played Ohio State or Alabama or something like that, he would have been drafted a lot higher. It's a small school guy, so he's not going to be drafted high. So 233, we just picked. Somebody to me is intriguing is Christian Uphoff from Illinois State, the safety. Illinois State's producing a decent amount of players. I believe they had James Robinson. Watch Uphoff's tape. Another scenario where if he played at the bigger school, he would be drafted a lot higher. So last pick of the 7th round, who are some players you're looking at?
It's kind of tough at this point. Trying to remember what we've done. I think that you could take another linebacker for depth here, the safety, like you said. I'd even see if one of those running backs slipped down to the 7th round, because you got P. Ryan Mixon and Travion Williams. We don't know. I mean, it's likely Bernard will be brought back, but there's a chance he could be cut. So I think that if you got an underrated running back here, I think it's a good spot to take one. Either that or one of these linebackers or safety for more depth.
I wouldn't be against running back, but it's going to be really interesting if if Bernard gets cut, because one, it's their money, but lots of people, and like Bernard's one of the fan favorites in the team. It's one of the scenarios, I wouldn't totally be against it, but he has been a part of the team for a while. But we're not going to be able to trade him because his contracts, it's more than it should. But running back is really interesting. I believe Pete Ryan's a free agent, but in my opinion, I figure we would re-sign him. But if we would go to the linebacker or safety, like one of these top linebackers, maybe Christian Uphoff, which one would you probably choose?
I'd probably go with the safety here just for more depth to the safety group. I think, after Jesse Bates, you're going to need a little more help. I think Brandon Wilson's special teamer. Nothing against I don't really know if I like him playing much defense. I think you keep him because he's a really good returner. I think, and then we don't know what's going to happen with Sean Williams either behind Von Bell. So I think just adding some more safeties, maybe some underrated guys later on, could help out in the long run.
Yeah, so we'll take Christian Uphoff here in the 7th round from Illinois State, and that's really interesting because Sean Williams is a free agent. To me, I mean I'm gonna have to get a new logo, but for like the 3rd or 4th time, he's played like 10 snaps a game or something like that. To me, I do not see there's a case where he comes back. And also, Brandon Wilson's a free agent, like you said. He's a lot better on special teams than he actually plays safety. And if he's brought back, I feel like it's primarily special teams. So a little more safety depth in the 7th. So we'll take Christian Uphoff from Illinois State. To me, I think this is pretty good. Penei Sewell in the 1st, Carlos Basham in the 2nd, Damani Brown the 3rd, Jalen Twalman in the 4th, the defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, Shaq Otoney in the 5th, Quentin Morris in the 6th. On our 7th round picks, we picked Trey Walker, the wide receiver from San Jose State, and Christian Uphoff, the safety from Illinois State. So what are your thoughts, on this mock, and what would you probably grade it out of 10?
I'd probably give it like 8.5, which 8.5 is pretty good for a draft. Anytime you're getting like high, I think that it's probably about impossible to give like any mock draft to this point a 10. I think that I'm not even. I'll go ahead and give it a 9 because out of my top 4 my favorite player in each of the 4 rounds got 3 of them, and then Basham really good too. So I think this would be phenomenal for the Bengals. I think this would help a lot. I think it would. You help the pass rush, you help the offensive line, you give Burrow a couple more weapons. I think this would be just really good for the Bengals, and plus what you do in free agency too added onto this. So I think this would be really, really good for the Bengals.
Yeah, I would probably give it about an 8 or so. I mean, you really look at it here. We hit team needs, but it's important when you're drafting early. You don't take team needs; you take best player available. Billy Price. That was a questionable pick. We took a team need over best player available, and to me, I mean, for the most part, we took best player available and a team need. And I mean, Sewell to me is an A+ pick. Basham's probably a B+ pick. Damani Brown, that's a probably A or B. Twyman, that's A+ easy. Shakatoni, A+. He shouldn't be there. Quentin Morris, I give it about a A-. And Trey Walker, A+. I don't think he should be there. And Christian Upal, I would give that probably a B. Overall, I like this mock a lot. And on this mock draft, what would you say? I know it's kind of hard to dictate, especially with free agency, because what we do in free agency has a huge indication of what we're going to do in the draft. But if free agency is okay, we don't sign any huge guys. Let's say we re-sign Lawson, but we don't re-sign Jackson. How many wins do you think this team with this draft could get this season?
Without including free agency.
Re-sign Lawson, but that doesn't include anybody else. So just Lawson.
Just this right here. I'm gonna go ahead and say 6 with this. But I think 6 or 7. But I think there's a chance that bringing in more people in free agency. I know you said just Lawson, but like maybe a Tooney or somebody plus this. I think right now it's kind of hard to tell. I think the Bengals have a tough schedule, and I think if at the end of the year they have 7 wins next year with their schedule, and you keep everybody try to keep everybody healthy, Burrow being at the top of that list, and you let the young guys develop another year. I think 7 wins is nothing to be ashamed of next year.
I would probably say 7 or 8. Mainly because I know we have a really tough schedule. You have Sewell, that's a major upgrade over Bobby Hart. Basham, you have him and Hubbard play some with the addition of Lawson. Damani Brown, that's an underrated pick. Twyman, him and DJ Reader, that's will be really nice. And I didn't say not including Mike Daniels, but if possibly we would. That's also somebody to look at. Shakatoni should not be there. We really help the defensive line. And I know. Receivers, we're pretty good at. And for me, defensive line was probably our biggest issue. I know I sound crazy. Our offensive line isn't good, but you realize, what we had at times with the Bengals defensive line with, Dunlap and Hubbard and Lawson. We had 17 sacks in 16 games. That's just unacceptable. To me, this really helps it. I think we could be a 7 to 8 win team here. But to me, that's a great mock.
Yeah. And I think that, fixing the offensive line, I think you take Sewell and you get Tooney, I think you're about already there pretty much.
So that was Pro Football Network. Those are that's the website I do for my 7-round mock drafts for each team. Also, make sure to go check that out. I literally just got one doing before this, that one just finished one. Can't freaking talk. Doing one with the Chicago Bears. Been doing some recently. I have lots of content coming out. So this is PFF. I'm going to do randomness down. I did a mock draft on FanSpeak one time, and randomness was normal, whatever. And I don't know how. This was the only mock draft I did on FanSpeak. Rondale Moore went 3rd to the Dolphins. Don't know how that happened. So at that point, I just kind of quit FanSpeak. So I'm mainly doing Pro Football Network. Don't really use PFF much. Just started doing it recently. So here, Lawrence Fields, Jamar Chase, and Penei Sewell are all gone. To me, this is really intriguing because this is a scenario that's probably not going to happen. I think it's possible Sewell and Chase are both gone, but the fact that Zach Wilson is not picked to me is just does not set well. Because he's my favorite quarterback in the class, easily. But it's really intriguing because Jalen Waddle's here, Devontae Smith, and Kyle Pitts. So are you maybe taking Pitts or one of those receivers at 5? Or are you going to maybe trade back with somebody and maybe get one of those guys or potentially an offensive lineman?
In this case, since Zach Wilson's still there, I would definitely look to see if anyone's offering anything crazy, any really good offers. But if there's nothing they really kind of don't get baited into taking, and not many offers they like, I think you get Kyle Pitts here.
My last mock draft. Oh, okay. last week's mock draft, I had Blake Jewell on, and me and him, we're talking. Zach Wilson at number 5. Okay, what I'm about to say is kind of crazy. Zach Wilson being at number 5 is best case scenario for the Bengals. To me, I think it's better than Penei Sewell because I don't really want to do this trade because I just did it last week. But the 49ers, they love Zach Wilson. And if he's at 5, I really think they're going to offer some monstrous deal. Like they give us their first and second this year, their first and second next year. I mean, he's John Lynch was at multiple BYU games. I kind of explained this in my last video, but the 49er fans absolutely love him. Go to all his games on YouTube, the scout and stuff. They're all filled with 49er fans in the comments. And I mean, you go to 49er fan pages on Instagram, they're all, full of Zach Wilson. To me, I don't really want to trade him to the 49ers, but I know we would get a ton from them. But I know I sound crazy saying that, but I really think if Zach Wilson is at 5, the 49ers would offer us some huge deal that, could really make us have a top 5 draft this year and next year.
Yeah, I think if Zach Wilson's there and you can get something crazy like that, I think definitely do that. I like Kyle Pitts a lot, but there's some players you can get, and you can get a lot of picks in return for that. And I think that would be a really good trade for the Bengals. And probably not as much of a big of a plus as getting the picks, but then Zach Wilson's out of the conference; he's in the NFC, so that's just another plus. Kind of try to limit all the good quarterbacks in this conference.
So, I mean, I think the 49ers would offer us a huge deal, but I don't really want to do that one. To me, the intriguing part with Wilson being here at 5, you don't know the Eagles are going to take him. Personally, I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts. If it's between Zach Wilson or Jalen Hurts, I'm taking Zach Wilson 1,000,000,000% of the time. 7, I don't care. The Lions just drafted Jared Goff. If I'm the Lions, I'm 100% taking him. 8's the Panthers. I'm taking him. Broncos, I would take him. Those are 4 straight picks right after us. And I know if Wilson's there, I know we can maybe take, Kyle Pitts or a wide receiver, maybe even Slater or Darisaw, like you kind of mentioned in the previous mock. But, I mean, we got to trade back because we would we would get so much draft capital and it could really have us, amazing amazing drafts in the next 2 years. I was kind of thinking here, the Broncos could offer us their first this year, so we would swap. Their second this year, their first next year, and their 4th next year. Would you do that trade?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I would do that. Get an extra second, extra first next year. Yeah, I think I would do that.
So we're going to pick number 9. Personally, this is probably best case scenario. I know it's unpopular. Everybody's, fixated on Penei Sewell. And, I like Penei Sewell. I have no issues with taking him at number 5. But if there's a scenario like this, it's absolutely amazing. Especially Kyle Pitts is still available at number 9. That just makes it even sweeter. So are you going to take Darisaw or one of those Slater, one of those 2 tackles? Or you're going to take Kyle Pitts at number 9?
Well, considering I would have taken him at 5, I think I'd definitely take him here if I trade back. I imagine that if I was in the front office and I made this trade and Kyle Pitts still fell to 9, I would be ecstatic with how it turned out.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the mock, I like Kyle Pitts more than Jamar Chase. I mean, if we traded back and this happened, this is best case scenario. If we drafted Penei Sewell at 5, I think that'd be really good. But the fact that we got the player who could have been taken even before 5, because I really feel like I know most people think that Miami Dolphins are going to take Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase number 3. I don't think it's a guarantee that I don't even think it's a guarantee that Kyle Pitts is there at number 5, because I really think a team who could be potentially looking at him is the Dolphins. I know it kind of sounds weird because they have Mike Gesicki, but he has 1 year of his contract left. And, I mean, Pitts is a generational type of talent, so it's going to be really interesting to see where Kyle Pitts goes. So who are some players you're maybe looking at here in the second round?
I'm trying to look and see who they got on there. I think here you got to go tight end. So I think, or in the first round you went tight end. So I think now you kind of look at some of the offensive tackles that are there. I think if you do that, if you go tight end round one, I think you definitely look for an offensive tackle in the second round.
So Alex Leatherwood from Alabama is there. Crap. So Alex Leatherwood from Alabama is a top offensive tackle. Walker Little from Stanford. Let's see, I can't freaking talk. Landon Dickerson from Alabama. I wouldn't think we get him, but to me, it's interesting because Trey Hopkins, I think he's an underrated candidate to potentially get cut. Jackson Carman, let's see here. Eichenberg from Notre Dame. I know you said you like him a lot. So would you maybe want to get him in a second round since we did not get a offensive lineman in the first?
Yeah, if I took Pitts, I would take Eichenberg in the second round.
So it's something.
I think he'd be a really good pick.
Something interesting, we have pick 38 with the, that's our pick, but we traded back with the Denver Broncos. We're just tuning in, and we also pick 40. So we're going to take Eichenberg. And we got Pitts, Eichenberg, and we get an extra second round pick. To me, this is just phenomenal. So like we said, have another second round pick. What kind of position are you maybe looking at here?
I think this is where you start to look at edge rusher. With taking Kyle Pitts, I don't think you really need to, worry about a receiver like right now, because he's just another weapon. I think you'll eventually need to take one in this draft if you haven't signed one in free agency. So I think right now, edge rusher would be where I would be looking definitely. And I think that, like you said earlier, I think with some of these edge rushers, I think they're both a team need and BPA, which is good.
So there's not many top edge rushers available. Peyton Turner, who is a Patrick Jones, he's way down the list here. Being realistic, he's not. I think he's around 130 or something like that. He's not going to be that far, in my opinion, at all. Would you? I know it's completely different from here, but would you be against Patrick Jones here at pick 40?
Oh, absolutely not. I think he would be perfect there. I know PFF's going to they're probably going to give you an F for taking him here because of where they have him rated, but pick 40 is definitely worth it. He's got a first round grade for me, and already getting Pitts and Eichenberg, I think that Patrick Jones would just be phenomenal right here.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's so low. Like I said, I don't have position rankings for edge, but if I did, he would be probably, definitely my top 5. I really, really like him. I mean, he's just all over the field. He'll get you at least, it seems like, a sack a game. This is freaking amazing so far. We got Kyle Pitts. Top 5 prospect. We got Eichenberg, one of the best tackles there. We got a team need, one of the best players available. And Patrick Jones, one of my favorite players there, one of the best players available, and a team need. This mock draft, if this happens, we would be absolutely set for the next couple of years with young talent. So round 3, to me, kind of gets interesting because you don't, with those players you've already took, there's just 3 different positions. So you're not totally sold, what position you want to take around 3. To me, intriguing positions, maybe defensive tackle, Devion Nixon from Iowa, or if maybe we go like a defensive tackle, to me, probably makes the most sense here. Maybe a wide receiver, corner even, maybe Eric Stokes. He had that supposedly insane 40-yard dash. To me, I feel like, he probably did not run quite as fast as people think. But, it's going to be interesting where Eric Stokes goes with that 40-yard dash. But who's some people here in the third you're looking at?
But definitely be looking at D tackle. If Twyman's there, Nixon, I think they both would be good picks. And then Stokes, you can go ahead and take your corner. I think that, I think probably defense is the best way to go here, whether it's corner or D tackle. With taking Pitts, you can probably hold off for another round or 2 taking receivers. So I think either Nixon, Twyman, or Stokes would be a good pick.
If it was between Stokes or Nixon, who would you take?
I think with the way things are right now, I think I would take Nixon.
So we'll take Nixon here. I really like that pick. Blake Jewell was on here, like I mentioned. He's really, really big high on him. We're talking about him a lot. We'll take Nixon here instead of Twyman because, we just had him in our last mock draft. I don't know why, but like the screen here is really, really blurry. Can you even see me on the screen?
No, I can't. Mine.
Well, I done messed that up. It happened last stream too. I mean, if you hear my voice, I'm there, so I guess we'll be okay. But
Yeah.
I don't understand why that keeps messing up. Your screen too is really, really dark. I don't.
I'm in my car. That's probably why.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it got dark.
So so far we've took Pitts, who we took Patrick Jones, Lion Eckenberg, Devion Nixon, defensive tackle from Iowa, and to me, this is really interesting because each round, like I've said a couple of times, each round dictates what we're going to do in the next. It's kind of like a domino fall type of deal. But who's some people you're maybe looking here in the fourth round?
Fourth round, you can kind of look back at edge, I think, here. Or, this is where you can start looking at receivers, I think. So I think either a receiver or you double down on edge here. Yeah, I think those are probably the best two ways to go.
Somebody I like a ton, kind of already mentioned, Jalen Darden. I like him a ton. He was already picked. I don't understand how these, it's so different. If you've, stay tuned and watched our, first mock draft, you saw where we took Trey Walker here in the 7th round on Pro Football Network. In the 7th round on PFF, he's rated the 110th best player. So it's just really crazy how much these, draft boards are. So wide receiver, you say, or edge rusher, maybe looking at here.
Yeah, I think those would probably be the two best positions to go after. I think that since you've taken tight end, I think you can take a receiver now too.
Trying to see here. Good wide receiver. Trey Walker, Tutu Atwell. To me, that's another player. It's really intriguing because he's everywhere. I mean, I think Daniel Jeremiah, it was either him or somebody from NFL Network. His first mock had him in the first round. Others I've seen have him go in like the third or fourth. Cornell Powell from Clemson, Nicole Collins from Michigan, Amari Rogers. To me, I like him a lot. I don't really think he should be that low. So, some Jonathan Adams Jr. I mean, that was Daz Newsome. So we go the edge rushers here. Either those receivers who some you may be looking at.
I think Tutu Atwell would be a good pick there. I think he's got some speed to him. I like Daz Newsome a lot. I don't know if I'd take him in the 4th round. I think I'd wait, but I like him a lot too.
Quincy Roche, I don't think he should be here at all. D'Angelo Malone, that's something interesting. He's actually coming back this season for Western Kentucky. I like him a lot. I like him a lot. When they played Marshall, earlier in the season, he was just all over the field. And if he came out, I would maybe take him here in the 4th. But with him coming, returning for Western Kentucky, obviously, don't understand why he's still on here. Ellerson Smith, Chris Rumpf, Patrick Jones from Tulane. So out of those edge rushers and out of those receivers, who are you maybe going to take here in the 4th?
I think it would either go Rumpf or Roche. I think they're either one of those you'd be in good shape taking here. I think if those two were on the board though here, I think based on where they'll probably get drafted, I think Roche would probably be the better one. But I think I like Rumpf more than Roche. I think.
I prefer Roche just a tad bit more, and it's one of those scenarios like Roche should not be here.
Yeah,
and Patrick Jones, he was around 138, but we took him in the 2nd to be more realistic. So to be more realistic, we'll take Chris Rumpf here in the 4th. Because Roche in the 4th, that's not happening. But at the same time, kind of like we talked about, like you just don't know like the play, like what teams, how they view these edge rushers because there's so many talented ones in the draft.
Yeah, and I think PFF's probably gonna give you a hard time for those 2 edge rusher picks. So I've seen some of the uh, pictures of like the grades they give. They're not very lenient.
So last week's video, like I said, I think I traded. Yeah, we traded back to 12, and we got I think it was Slater, and they gave us a D- grade. Don't really understand that because, like you talked about, you wouldn't be against taking Slater number 5. If we didn't get Pitts, I would have been totally for Slater there. But it's just kind of crazy, how some of these grades are. So we got the 5th round here. I know we took Lime Eckenberg from Notre Dame, but somebody that intrigues me is Brady Christensen from BYU. He had a top 30 grade this past season, according to PFF, throughout the college football season. He's really underrated. James Wiggins as well from Cincinnati. Christensen, to me, if he played at a better school, not better, but like Ohio State, Alabama, I think it would be drafted a lot higher. Twalman's there in the 5th. I don't really think that's realistic much at all. Israel, don't know. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name. I know you mentioned him in the last mock. Jonathan Adams Jr., so Paulson Adiba, the corner from Stanford. So who's some people maybe in the 5th you're looking at?
5th round, I think that this is where you can kind of look at, like Drake Jackson, a center. I don't know if he's there. I'm not sure. But, like, realistically, I think he could be there. I think he would be a really good pick in the 5th. Christensen, like you said, would be solid. James Wiggins, too. I think that they'll have a lot of options here. Is Drake Jackson there?
Yeah, Drake Jackson and Josh Myers are still available.
I think Myers too. I think realistically, I think Myers will already be gone, but I think Drake Jackson would be a really good pick in the 5th round. Just add more, interior offensive line depth.
So you want to take him here in the 5th?
Yeah, I think that would be a good pick.
And, it's one of those scenarios, not a ton of mock drafts have us taking center, but it's really interesting because, Trey Hawkins recently signed a contract extension not too long ago and, has a season-ending injury. And, you don't know if Billy Price may take some snaps at center, for Frank Pollock. Price's best seasons were when Frank Pollock was our offensive line coach. But at the same time, Billy Price is a free agent, I believe, next season. So, I mean, even if Price plays, it's not a guarantee, he comes back. Or, if Hopkins plays, he can be possibly a cut candidate next year. But you would already have a guy like, Josh Myers or Drake Jackson, who has been learning from those guys and already, know the system of the coach and could potentially start next year or a situation like that.
Yeah, I think that just getting more interior offensive linemen could be a big help. Don't really know too much about how well Hopkins will come back, and there's a lot of. I'm pretty confident Billy Price can fill in at center for Hopkins if he misses some games, but I think in the long term, I think Drake Jackson's going to be a pretty solid safety, or not safety, sorry, center, in the league, and I think that if you take him there, I think that just kind of gives you more options down the road.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. And, to talk about, trying to be realistic here, Dwayne Eskridge, 191. That's not happening. I don't think it'd be, when it comes down to it, I don't think it will be a shock to me if he's already picked by 41. I mean, he's rising up draft boards a ton. Probably one of the biggest rises in the draft for the past month or so, wide receiver from Western Michigan. So we go to the 6th round. I know it might be a little bit too early for a running back. I like Jarrett Patterson a lot. I also like Austin Watkins from UAB. Let's see here. I don't know. Saying it right, Lauret Jackson. He's a pretty good tackle from Iowa. Tariq Thompson, the safety from San Diego State. I wouldn't mind Tim if we go safety. I also like Javion Hawkins. Reminds me a little bit of Austin Eckler. So who's some maybe players here in the 6th you're looking at?
I think we haven't taken a receiver yet, have we?
Crap. I don't think so.
So I think that's fine because you have Pitts, but I think in this round, you can look for one of those speed receivers.
Oh, I know you love Marquez Stevenson. I don't
Oh,
understand why he's here.
yeah. I mean,
You
there's
want
a
to take him?
chance he could be. I think he's like a 5th-round prospect, maybe even 4th, but there's a chance. I think if he's there in the 6th round, 100%, he would be a really, really good pick there.
Yeah, I like. So you want to take him? And try to? Do you think he'll? You think it's possible he drops to the 6th round?
I think that he was projected probably late 7th a couple months ago. So I think that right now it's just kind of hard to tell exactly where he's going to go. So I don't think it's super unrealistic for him to be taken in the 6th round.
Yeah, I completely forgot that he was so low in here. We'll definitely take him in the 6th. I like Trayvon Grimes a lot from Florida. Either one of those receivers to me, that's an A+ pick. Because I mean, even I know we talked about the edge class. You don't know how teams view. Same could be said for the wide receiver class. I don't think the wide receiver class is as talented as last year's, but I do think it's pretty close because I mean, there's so many mid-round wide receivers who have so much potential. It could be really, really good. Like Rashad Bateman, lots of people have him as like a wide receiver, 3 or 4, coming out. But I think he has potential to be one of the best ones coming out. It's just going to be really, really interesting. With so many wide receivers and so many edge rushers, you just don't know which ones are going to be future stars.
Yeah. Um, I think, with taking Marquez Stevenson there, you can or with the last 2 picks, you can take some of the better players that are still left.
To me, every single mock draft I've done on PFF has the Bears taking Josh Ball in the 7th round. To me, the 7th we picked 231 and 233. Some players I'm looking at are Quentin Morris. I know we already drafted Pitts. We don't need Morris. But let's see here. Keith Taylor from Washington, the corner. Would not mind him. And I also, Brendan Knox or Marshall, maybe a little bit biased, but I like Knox a lot. I don't know. He had to average around 100 rushing yards a game throughout his career. And I also like Tony Fields from West Virginia. Honestly, there's not a lot of players in the 7th round. I've scouted, but my 2 favorites here are probably Brendan Knox and Tony Fields.
I think, Tony Fields would be good, or Keith Taylor. I think those are probably my 2 favorites. When it gets to the 7th round, you can kind of just go just like preference, really. And I think that either one of those 2 I would be a fan of taking here.
Have we took a linebacker yet?
No, haven't. I don't think.
Have we took a corner yet?
No, I haven't taken a corner.
So, we'll take Fields here. And because, he will probably be picked if we don't take him in the next pick. And then, the Eagles picking. And they take Knox, so that leads us to get you would take Keith Taylor with the last pick here. Or is there anybody else you want to look at?
No, I think
Any
Keith
position?
Keith Taylor would be another good depth piece. I think he would be a solid pick here too. I think he's a little underrated.
So we take Keith Taylor, the cornerback from Washington, in the 7th to finish up this PFF center on my draft. To me, this mock draft was freaking amazing. I really feel like we took best player available pretty much every single pick. We got a team need every single pick. This was phenomenal. As it loads here, we'll see, officially what we got and what players we got at what picks. But and this is basically the power of trading back, and I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. If Chase and Sewell are both gone, to me, you got to trade back. If Sewell's gone, I would still probably trade back. And I mean, PFF gave us a grade A, and that's despite from their standards taking Patrick Jones and Marcus Stevenson and somebody else really, really high. Overall, what are your thoughts on this mock draft?
I love it. I think it would be really good for the Bengals. They can help fills a lot of needs. Add some underrated players. You get some more depth. I think it's a phenomenal draft.
To me, like this is probably best case scenario, and I kind of mentioned it when this my draft started. But Pitts, that's freaking amazing. Eckenberg, that's great. Patrick Jones, I know by their standards, that's not great. To me, instead of a C plus, I think that should be at least an A. David Nixon, that's a great pick. Drake Jackson, Marcus Stevenson, Tony Fields, Keith Taylor. Every single one of those players are best player available, and that's definitely amazing that we were able to do that. So, do you like this mock more or our first mock that we were able to do?
I think I like this one. Just plus we got this plus the first round next year. I think that this just gives you more chances to kind of fill up your needs in this year and next.
So, kind of talked about, I know it's questionable about free agency, how many wins. Let's say the Bengals, for instance, would re-sign Carl Lawson and re-sign Mike Daniels. And as of right now, let's say those are the only two Bengals they would re-sign. And after this type of draft, how many wins would you give this team?
I'm kind of sticking. I think it's good, definitely really good for the future. But I'm sticking around. I'd probably go 8. I think. I think it's really good. I just think that it's going to be a really young team. Period. And I think that they're going to win some games next year. But overall, you're drafting for the future. And I think this draft really helps the future. So I think, probably 8 or 9 wins next year. I think that'd be a pretty solid year for them.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a phenomenal mock draft. Like I said, if we would re-sign Carl Lawson and Mike Daniels, and after we have this mock draft, I would probably give us 9 wins because, I mean, Eckenberg, I know he's a downgrade from Penei Sewell, but he's also an upgrade from Bobby Hart. When you go to pass rush wise, Patrick Jones is a significant upgrade over Sam Hubbard. Like you said, Sam Hubbard's kind of more of a run stopper. It's going to be interesting, if we would re-sign Hubbard next season. David Nixon, that's great. You can have him beside DJ Reader, Chris Rump. That's a great pick. Drake Jackson, that's one of those players. He probably won't play right now, but he has potential to play in a year or so. Marquez Stevenson at 192. To me, that's a really good pick. Tony Fields and Keith Taylor, both in the 7th. And to me, I mean, both those players we drafted in the 7th round are definitely going to make the team. And it's one of those scenarios, one of those instances. You look back on our 7th round picks throughout the years, or even late round picks in general. George Loco was a 5th round pick. He was one of my favorite Bengal players ever. He was amazing. Darius Phillips, he's played really well this past season for us. He was a 5th. I believe Marvin Jones was a 5th as well. TJ Husmanzada, one of the best receivers in franchise history, was a 7th round pick. Auden Tate was a 7th round pick. And I mean, throughout the years, we've had some massive hits in the later rounds, in the last day. I definitely think this could be a type of situation where that happens again.
Yeah, and I think that there's some guys I really like in the later rounds that you can add, similar to Auden Tate, where you might not find a superstar, but you can find somebody that's going to have some solid production. And I think that if not only depth, I think you can find just a pretty solid player eventually in the later rounds.
Yeah, overall, I mean, I think these mock drafts, if either one of these were to happen, I think it would be really good in the future. And I know it also determines what we do in free agency. So we did a PFF summer mock draft and a Pro Football Network summer mock draft, and we kind of, at the beginning of the episode, if you're, tuned in there, we also kind of mentioned a little bit about the potential Bengals jersey leagues. So, Blake, can you tell some of my listeners where they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me at Blake Jewell NFL on Instagram or Twitter.
Can you talk about your podcast and where they can follow that as well?
Oh yeah, we just started a new Bengals podcast, the Bengals and Draft. It's called Who They Talk Podcast, and our first episode should be coming out here pretty soon. You can find that on Twitter at Who They Talk Pod.
So I'll make sure to have that and the links in the description. Everything below. Make sure follow me on the little ticker thing at the bottom, Sports Behind Show. Well, the Sports Behind Show on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I really, really appreciate it. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time on the Sports Behind Show.